Hi, welcome to Navigating the Truth. It is April 9th, 2023, and my guest is Barbara Delong. And Barbara is joining me to talk about a book that has just been published before Roswell, amongst other
Bring you
things.
this.
Enjoy the show.
We've hijacked your daily dose of regurgitated news to bring you Navigating the Truth. Brace yourself, listeners, as you're about to enter a world where the narrative is no longer masqueraded as the truth. A world where the conspiracies of yesterday's translate into the truths of today.
Are you listening?
The veils covering the truth are lifting, and understandings once suppressed are finally being revealed. Will you be ready? And now, your host and navigator through these circles of lies, the host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hello, welcome to Navigating the Truth, and this is Easter Sunday. For those who celebrate, a happy Easter. And I want to thank the listeners who have chosen to listen in today. I have a very special guest who's quite a regular here on KCOR. I have Barbara DeLong. And Barbara DeLong is internationally known radio podcast host, spiritual empath, author, artist, lecturer, and ordained minister. Barbara DeLong has been working professionally in the spiritual field since the early 70s, in addition to being a full-time special education teacher and a single parent. In the 80s, she began painting personal mandalas for friends. Since that time, her paintings and the life readings that go with them are now worldwide, with over 400 of them in private collections. These individual paintings evolved into a circular oracle card deck called the Cosmic Deck of Initiation. The deck was published in 1991 as a peaceful and more spiritual substitute to the standard tarot deck. With many thousands purchased around the world, in October 2009, she launched her own radio show, Nightlight, which features spiritual philosophy questions and answers and awesome interviews with authors of those in the metaphysical field. The show also offers a platform for planting seeds of spiritual insight, as well as a showcase for featured authors offering insight from a plethora of different modalities. I'd like to welcome Barbara DeLong. Hello, Barbara.
Hello, thank you so much. I just have to rewrite that bio a bit, I think.
Oh, well, you have quite an extensive background, and I want to thank you for the book. I read it. It's how many sightings were there before Roswell? Well, quite a few.
Well, yeah, I think we list between 350 and 400. There were certainly more than that, but when you consider we go back almost 43,000 years, there weren't newspapers way back. But I think we got a wonderful overview of the difference between the sightings before Roswell and then, of course, the sightings after Roswell. So it's a great, I've read through it 4 or 5 times now because, of course, I try to kind of go through it every time before I do an interview. And I keep finding, tidbits that are really kind of cool. And the more I read it, the more I think, geez, this really is a good book.
It really is. It shows just how how long it's been going on and how many different accounts are actually written and can be found.
Yeah, and the list, it was interesting. The foundation of the list was on my late husband's website, and when I had to take his website down, everything that was not in one of his 3 books, I put onto my website so that I could preserve the material and add to it as time progressed. And so the UFOs were, his thing. He did the Bible UFO connection. And so they've been on my website for the last, at least the last 10 or 12 years. And I have added to it. And I didn't really pay that much attention to it until Ken Godsword gave me a call and said he was writing a book on before Roswell, and could he take some information from the website? And I said, oh, absolutely, go ahead, use what you
Mm-hmm.
need. And then he called me back. He said, well, it occurred to me you write too. You want to co-author it? And I said, oh, well, sure. So he took what he needed off of the website and he arranged it in the order that it's in the book, and said he was going to just write before and after each section a little bit, and then and he said, I'll do my part and I'll send it to you and you put whatever you want in. And he wrote the summation and I wrote the conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a fun book to do. And it kind of reawakened the interest in UFOs that I've had. I saw one when I was in college. So, it is something I have a personal experience of, but the variety of the different sightings and the difference between the way UFOs were treated before Roswell and how they have been treated after Roswell. It isn't until after Roswell that the element of fear came into any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have the best of the sightings. They're fun. They there's no abductions and there's no any of the the alien stuff or anything like that. And it's an event that they are events that have been happening since the beginning of newspapers and the beginning of time. You go back
Mm-hmm.
13,000, 14,000 years in the caves in France, and they're on the cave walls. So
Yep.
they've been with us a long time. And then biblically speaking, you can go back to the Sumerians and even prior to that. So, and the more I look at it all, the more I think that, maybe we're the aliens and they're the people that were here before us.
That's something to think on. I wonder, like, you had actually listed the War of the Worlds, like when they did that radio broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like up until that point, aliens had been seen as relatively friendly, but after that radio, there was this fear put into people.
Absolutely. And it's really, well, and then Roswell, of course, with the conspiracy. And even in 42, I think the Battle of Los Angeles, I mean, it wasn't a battle. It was a ship that was sighted coming in. They thought it was coming in from Japan, so they alerted everybody in San Francisco and other places, and the searchlights went on and the batteries were ready, and this ship slowly came out of the mist, so to speak. It didn't actually come from the sea exactly, but they sent planes up, they shot artillery at it. It had a force field of some sort around it so that everything exploded and bounced off. And there was collateral damage, but it was because of the fragments from our bombs and everything that fell to the earth and hit people. Patrick and I interviewed a man who had been a young boy at the time and had watched the whole thing from his bedroom window. And then after the fact, the next day, he and all of his friends went down to the beach and picked up the fragments of shells and things like that, and the military paid everybody for however many pieces they brought in, and
Wow.
yeah, and so I mean there was no they thought it was Japanese.
Right.
The thought of an alien ship just didn't compute for any of them for quite a while. So. Except that their bombs didn't hit it and there was a force field and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe they should stop shooting.
One would think.
The other thing that it just popped out, and I'm not really sure. I think was it the 1700s, but it was the French had a law that prevented any flying apparatus, so you were arrested. Like that one just jumped out at me that they actually had a law in a time when we weren't supposed to have any flying apparatus.
Well, it was, I think the law was against anyone who had ridden in one. or
Mm-hmm.
said they had ridden in one. And
Ah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, it was just weird,
Mm-hmm.
but
Very.
not well, yeah, that would be fearful if you said, yeah, I rode in the UFO, and goodbye, you're going to jail. But
Right.
uh, but it just, it wasn't treated with the horror that science fiction has treated it with, since then. And all Hollywood has done is, with the exception of maybe E.T.,
Mm-hmm.
you know, any aliens or anything like that were monsters that were trying to take over the earth. And the reality is they have been out there for hundreds of thousands of years on the planet for easily that long. And if
Mm-hmm.
they were going to terraform it and take it over, they would have done so.
Yeah.
And then you have, I think it was a Rod Serling thing on the alien coming to Earth, and wanting to help people and serve them. And everybody got excited, and everybody, they offered the opportunity to take them back to their world, but you had to gain weight in order to sustain the space travel. And his book, To Serve Man, was not a book for serving man, it was a cookbook
Yeah.
for
For
how to
eating
cook
him.
man.
Yeah. For eating him. Yeah.
I mean, there's been nothing but fear that has been generated about aliens. The aliens helped the Germans develop their rocket science, maybe.
Mhm.
But there's no such thing as a friendly alien.
Mm. I don't know
And
if I believe that.
no,
You
I
know?
I do
Yeah.
believe that they are among us, and they
Yeah.
probably look like us. And
Mm-hmm.
I Billy Meyer has dealt with aliens for, oh gosh, 50 years or more,
Mm-hmm.
and they've all been friendly. There's never been any conspiracies or anything like that. They've given him material that he could not possibly have learned for himself. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously it was channeled material or whatever. But but Roswell seems to have been the turning point for our attitude towards aliens and extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm. Very deliberate turning point,
Oh,
like, yeah, very deliberate.
yeah, the more you look into it, the more you realize that. And not only that, but today, when you look up in the sky and you see a UFO, it
Mm-hmm.
is an unidentified flying object. There is no guarantee that there is a pilot in it, an alien in it, or anything. But you say UFO, and immediately everyone thinks of aliens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're right. Like, a lot of it actually might not come from off planet,
Oh,
a lot of
today? Oh,
yeah, a
oh.
lot of it is originating here.
Well, when you realize that we've had several crashed vehicles that we have reverse engineered material from. The Germans as well were investigating time travel,
Mm-hmm.
and they were investigating, of course, spaceships and stuff like that. They had their Glock that they were working on that had to do with anti-gravity.
Right.
And so it's stuff that we've been experiencing all along. But again, that element of fear is now put into it, which is, it's just so sad. When you actually, they did, scientists did the taking of the human DNA, and they found that after so many thousands of years it would mutate, and then it would mutate again after a couple of more thousand years. And they took it back to when they feel it was the original DNA. And I'm not talking Garden of Eden. I'm talking, let's just go back to when human DNA in its purest form was around, and they found that human DNA, or Homo sapien DNA,
Mm-hmm.
is older than the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So that our DNA originated somewhere other than Earth. We are
Yeah.
not indigenous to this planet.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of known that since I got here, I've never felt like, I've always kind of felt not at home, you know.
Oh
I've made
yeah.
a home, but not my home. It's not my home. I think it's fascinating. I like the amount that you were able to find, or that you have accumulated and put into this one book, because that's like written accounts that can be traced. How many other accounts are there? You know, like, because that will only represent a small percentage of what is actually happened over the millenniums, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And really we tried to, just put in the book the ones that we could validate came from a newspaper, came from an interview that was validated, and so that there are over 350, I think. I mean,
Hmm.
some of them are validated because, like, they're in the Bible or they're in the Sumerian texts, or
Or
there are.
paintings, yep, like
Yeah,
Michelangelo's paintings, yep.
absolutely.
Yeah, like it is really, really fascinating, but it it does like bring the question when you talk about our DNA being older than the realm that we live in. That has to make people go, "What?" You know, like oh, it's just fascinating, like the amount of deception that has been able to grow legs and run all over the place.
Well, I think, we have a lot of that going on today, unfortunately. I
Mhm.
mean, it's obvious with the government that there is conspiracy, that they have released a lot of the UFO forms, but they're still redacted, so we
Mhm.
don't know what was in them.
Yeah.
And theoretically, it, on my website, the UFO material does not start with Roswell. It starts back way in the Bible, and it but it goes forward into military people today. I mean, the incidences that have been reported and stuff on my website are far more extensive than are in the book.
Mhm.
So if anybody's curious as to what's new, I mean, I have not kept it up. I have not kept putting stuff onto the list because, unfortunately, there are other areas that I'm sinking into.
Mhm.
But I forget how far the website takes it, because it takes it way far into the present day almost. Let me see if I can grab it fast. Um, I don't go to my website that often to actually look for something.
Well, it's quite an extensive website you have. Like like I go, you had remote viewing there,
Right.
and you were guiding people. Like I did some of the exercises like about a year ago when I was looking at your website. It's really fascinating. You have so much stuff on there.
Oh, yeah. And when you were reading the intro, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's talking about the Mandalas, and
Mhm.
um, but um, I talk and the cosmic deck that was published in '91.
Mhm.
Well, it's no longer published. They stopped publishing it, and within the next 2 months, I am republishing it with a spiritual handbook that goes along with it. And the handbook is like 400 pages explaining what the cards were intended for,
Mhm.
and it never happened, because when I did the cards originally, it was meant to be a teaching tool. And I told the publisher, I said, look, this deck is a sleeper deck. This deck is not going really anywhere because it isn't time for it. Now,
Mhm.
tens of thousands of decks were sold. So, he sold out the web, and they just stopped publishing it. And so when I was approached to republish the cards and actually finally write the handbook, I found that after 31 years, I was in a place where I could write the spiritual handbook that goes with it with
Mhm.
far greater validation and wisdom than I could have 31 years ago. So the handbook is really profound,
Mhm.
and it's going to be fascinating, and I'm almost ready to send. The cards are already. They're
Mhm.
they're they're being published in a hexagon shape this time instead of circular.
Oh, I have the circular ones. I had got them. I had got a set on eBay. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know they're no longer in circulation, but I'm really happy to hear that they're going to be back.
Yeah, it's fascinating because what's going to happen is, I mean, the handbook will they're the same paintings. It's just the cards are a different shape,
Hmm.
so that you can use the handbook with the circular deck,
Hmm.
and but the handbook is just, there's so much more information in it. It's just unbelievable, and I'm very excited about it because it is turning out to be an actual spiritual development book using the deck of cards.
Oh, I
And
love that. I love it.
and so each level, the first 11 cards dealt with the physical, and then there were the cosmic laws, and then the spiritual energies, the universal energies, and then, of course, the astrologicals and the others. But it takes the human spirit through its evolution through each lifetime and explains how the spirit manifests more and more and more within reality as you grow spiritually. And
Hmm.
the deck of cards is really a spiritual development handbook.
That is fun. I can't wait for your book to come. Uh,
It's actually, there is a website that is going up that is cosmicdeckofinitiation.com. It's not totally developed yet at all, but it is actually there. And there will be a seeker forum.
mhm.
Basically, anybody on a spiritual journey is a seeker, and there will be an interactive place where people can ask questions about the deck or ask questions, and I will answer them.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I think I love this deck. I love the energy of the deck,
Hmm.
the colors, and how positive it is.
Wait till you see the handbook.
I can't wait.
Well,
I can't wait.
the handbook is going to be about 350 pages.
That's great.
It's
That's
it,
some meat. It's something to
it,
read. Yes.
it's a lot of information.
Hmm. That's fantastic. How did you come up with the idea for the deck? It is that a long story, and we're about 2 minutes for our break.
I will happily tell you this story, but it's definitely more than a 2 minutes.
And I also want to hear about the UFO that you had saw in college.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
yeah, I have actually listened to some of your nightlight shows. I love it. It's a very relaxed. I always learn something when I listen in.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Okay, we are coming up on our break, our first 3 minute break, and hang on, listeners, we will be right back with Barbara DeLong.
You're listening to Navigating the Truth with Caroline Bell Tumblety, where the truth survives and the lies are exposed.
I just want to assure you that everything is under control. There's been no damage except for some temporary malfunction of the radio.
Come be a part of this awakening by joining us in chat or by calling our hotline at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers, find us on Skype at KCOR Radio.
We're pushing the ultimate frontier here.
Control must be maintained.
More disinformation exposed and the truth discovered. After a word from our sponsors.
1,000,000 miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint. And the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1,000,000 miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1,000,000 miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, Prepare and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 Million Miles Till Midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
1, 2, 3, 4!
To the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds.
Love the music. I listen all day.
The future of radio is here and now.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Change your frequency, change your life with the Lemurian Plug. The Lemurian Plug is easy to control, simple to set up, and wireless. It helps to neutralize toxins and has restorative frequencies for healing. It also helps to protect you and your family from EMFs. The Lemurian Plug is energy efficient and designed using ancient technology for a superior design. One unit can cover up to 1,000 square feet. This life-changing product is reasonably priced. And isn't your family's health worth a small investment? For more information on the miraculous effects of this plug or to purchase the Lemurian Plug, visit thelemurianplug.com. That's thelemurianplug.com. The Lemurian Plug is like nothing you've ever experienced. Order yours today.
Vegas, baby! Vegas' #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Navigating the Truth, the one show that peels back the masks of the elite and exposes the truth we're not being told.
Here to warn
You must not abuse the power you've been given. Eventually, you will lose control of that power and the whole world will suffer.
Come partake in the awakening by calling the show at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230.
Give us a call now.
Those around the world, connect with us on Skype at KCOR Radio. Follow us on Twitter at KCOR Radio or use hashtag KCOR. Come engage in the discussion live in our chat room at www.kcorradio.com.
Our survival depends upon it.
Now, back to examining the narratives and uncovering the truth with your host of Navigating the Truth, Caroline Bell Tumblety. Caroline Bell Tumblety.
Hi, welcome back to Navigating the Truth on this lovely Sunday. And I have an awesome guest. I have Barbara Delong. And we kind of went into a rabbit hole there during the break, and to come back to what we were talking about. I was going to ask you, like, where you got the inspiration for your cosmic deck initiation.
In the 70s, I studied spirituality and spiritual development in a spiritual church. And we had meetings, once a week, classes. And part of the class was we had a homework assignment. And most of the time it was to write something, but every now and then we were asked to create something. And one of the weeks, he explained to us what mandalas were and assigned us to create a mandala for somebody in the class. And which I thought was great because I love artwork and stuff like that. So I took my compass and my ruler and I got to work and I created a mandala for this classmate and wrote the reading that went with it. And it impressed everybody, and it was summertime and I was off school, so a couple of the other people in the class asked if I would do mandalas for them, and I thought, sure, I can do that. And before I realized it, people were asking me for, to create gifts for friends and things like that. And I finally said, well, wait, there has to be a cost here. I have to pay for the paint somehow. And so it started out that way, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and they went from $25 a piece I kept raising the cost, thinking that I would slow down the
Right.
the
Demand.
demand. Yes.
Yeah.
That didn't work too well. And it got to the point where I think there were over 500 of them. And at some point, I went from watercolor over to oil because I prefer oil. And so at the very end, they were going for like $2,500. And people were still buying them. And I finally said, you know what? Um, then I got the thought, oh wow, these are spiritual geometric representation of a person's soul energy. Now, I could create a deck of cards that I always have had a personal aversion, and it's my own thing, to standard tarot. And you have to understand, at that time, standard tarot was the Rider-Waite deck and one other deck. There weren't really a lot of decks out there, and the Aquarian deck. And so, I didn't like the idea, first of all, of reversals, which to me are negative, and I don't agree with that. And the other one was a death card, and I don't agree with that either. So I thought, all right, so let me create a deck and make a mandalas. And then it was like, okay, so what are you going to do? What are your titles going to be? And I thought, well, of course we have to do the chakras, but I couldn't pronounce the chakras in their Indian names. So I renamed them, and and they became the foundation card instead of the root chakra, and all the way through.
Okay.
And so then it was like, okay, so where do you go then if it's a spiritual development? What comes next? And it was obvious that the laws, the universal laws, had to be there. So I researched, and I pulled out 11 cosmic laws, and then where do you go from there? And then, okay, so then the universal energies, and you'll notice you go from the physical to the laws to the spiritual, so that they each level builds one level upon the other. And so then I thought, oh, look at this, I now have the first three levels are the three master numbers, 11, 22, and 33, which I thought was really cool. And then I thought, well, then I have to put the astrological signs in, but there are 12 of those. So I was going to do away with one of them, but too many astrologists said you can't do away with one of the astrology signs.
No, not this time.
So there are 12 of those. And then it was like, well, I don't want to have major and minor arcana. And of course the cards are circular so that there is no reversal. And so, but I thought, there was unity, duality, trinity, 2 guardian angel cards, and a miracle card. And I thought, okay, so I'm done. And it was funny because I had turned them all over to the publisher. And I created the whole deck. And then US Games, who published them originally, approached me and wanted to print the deck. And I asked the Stuart Kaplan, who was the president, I said, I know you do tarot cards, but these aren't really standard tarot. I said, why do you want them? And he said, I want the artwork, because he had a personal collection. And so he took over he printed the deck, and he got the original paintings, and he published them for 20 years, I think. And then he stopped publishing them, and I got the copyright back, and I just now have received the original artwork back from them. And so I thought, I would like to, they're hard to find. The only deck that I've been able to find is one on ABE Books, and they're asking for $200 for the deck.
Wow.
So the deck is just about impossible to find. I think you can find them used, but you can't find them new. And so it was like, well, why don't I reissue them? And then it was a matter of, I don't know how to do that. I'd have to find a publisher. And so I've been toying with the idea of reissuing them. And I did call US Games, and they said they had destroyed the original plates, so that they had no way of reissuing them for me. And because they weren't doing it anymore, I was no longer under contract to them. So I just thought, well, I never wrote the handbook for them. So if I could reissue them with the handbook, that would be really cool. And we had a guest, Ken Godsword, was on Nightlight a couple of times, and I got to talking to him, and he wanted to republish, to do the Before Roswell book. And I got to talking to him about publishing and how I, really wanted to reissue the cards. I didn't know how to do it or what. And he said, "Barb, I'm a publisher. I'll do it for you." And it was like,
wow.
Okay. And when I sent him a deck of cards and he wanted to then reissue them, couldn't do it circularly, so they're coming out as a hexagon. And he said, "How, is the handbook written?" And I said, "No, but I can get to it right away." And so there are new layouts in the handbook. One of the layouts is a 6-card pyramid, and I'm going through the deck and I am interpreting every card for the 6 layers of the pyramid, so that the card will have its original meaning that can be used for a 1-card draw. And I am interpreting every card in every position in the pyramid. And it is becoming a spiritual handbook.
I love it. I love it. It sounds like it's all just coming together. Like it's kind of flowing. Like I mean, Ken being a publisher,
Go
it's
figure.
like, it's like these things, but that's how it happens, like it's smooth.
Oh, it was, it's kind of like I've talked about wanting to do the handbook for 31 years. But I think what has hit me so amazingly was he was ready to have the little white book. And I had to rewrite it in many places, because of course the layouts that I'm putting in the new book are different than the layouts that were in the old book. So I have done that redoing, and I retyped the whole thing. And in retyping it, I realized that between 31 years ago, when I wrote the little white book, I have grown so in just experience, and the thousands of people that I've had on the show, and the hundreds of thousands of people that I've read over the 31 years have enabled me to grow spiritually so much that the information that they are putting into the book now is way above where I was 31 years ago when I painted the cards.
Right. Such a richness that you're bringing to it. I can feel it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, every now and then I sit back and I look at something and I say, "Damn, that was good. Did I write that?"
Why the pyramid? Like, I know that I understand that it is very symbolic to this realm.
Yeah.
But when you're using it for like a 6-card reading that is layers, like could you go a little deeper? Like,
sure. Well, first off, I'll give you the. I sat down with a couple of people that I've read forever and ever and ever, and I said, okay, so what are the areas that you always want to look into? And we got body and health, future, career and finances, mind, love, and spirit. And so I had those 6 areas, and I realized that body and mind and future and career and finances were really the foundation that this physical life is based on.
Yeah.
And then the next level would be the mind and love, the intellect and the emotions. And then, of course, the crown would be the spirit.
Mm.
So it started out with let's be logical and, what are the areas people are going to want to look into if they're going to do a quickie as opposed to a 1-card draw.
Right.
And those were the 6 areas that we came up with. And then the pyramid was a given. And, the pyramid is a symbol of a lot of things. And, the peak of it is, the all-seeing eye or spiritual energy or spiritual focus. So it just fell into place. It was, and then there is a 37 card spread, which is a foundation reading. And that spread can be read by the month. It can be read astrologically according to the house. It can be read for body, mind, and spirit. They're all in that, or past, present, future, or if you really, I've done a full foundation reading for people in covering all those areas. But the most interesting area, and it turned out to be an 8-hour reading. The most interesting part of the whole reading, which I thought was just fascinating.
That's fascinating, yeah.
Was I said, they said, "Are you done?" And I said, "No, I there is one other area we can look at, but I don't know if you want to." And they said, "What is it?" I said, "There are cards here that you didn't draw, and those are the aspects that you are avoiding working on at this point in time."
Ooh, yep.
Do you want to go into those? And so the remaining cards from the deck.
You have been listening to Navigating the Truth with my wonderful guest, Barbara Delong. If you would like to hear the rest of the show, please go to kcorradio.com and the archive there is free. Thank you.